Welcome along, team. We'll give everybody a few moments to arrive into the room. Appreciate you making the time and space to join us today to learn a little bit about inspiring workplaces and one of New Zealand's most inspiring workplaces, Douglas Pharmaceuticals. If you're watching this on a recording, welcome along. Thank you for making the time to catch up with us. A couple of housekeeping things while we're here. Have you got something to write on? Very important. Do you have something to drink? Water, although, your choice. And these little puppies, super useful to do life, but not for the next hour. So if you can pop it on silent, face down and away from you, out of sight, that would be great. If you've got your email open or Teams messaging or something, I invite you to shut that as well. They can all live without you for another 59 minutes. Thank you for coming along. So today's webinar is all about inspiring workplaces and the Inspiring Workplace Awards. I am joined today by the lovely Ceri Rowland, who is the Chief People Officer for Douglas Pharmaceuticals, who were recognised both regionally across Australasia and then globally through Inspiring Workplaces. She'll tell you more about that shortly. And Killaly, who is one of the directors of Inspiring Workplaces Australasia, the little hub, one of 6 regions, I believe, for Inspiring Workplaces. And Ali and Ryan and the team are driving the expansion, really, elevation, amplification of the awards in the Australasian region. So we're going to hear from both of them about different aspects of this today. What it would be great to do, because I know these webinar things can feel a bit weird when you're just sitting and listening to us. We want you to get involved. So if you can open the chat and make sure that you've got it set to everyone, not just the host and panelists, because we want everyone to see who's here. Just drop a comment in. What company are you currently in? What organisation are you currently in? And are you based in Australia or New Zealand? These are Australasian awards. We're an Australasian team. Ali's joining us from Oz over the ditch. So we've got an NZ company there. Thanks, Sarah. Who else is here? Tahua Group. Now that's like about 6 different brands, including Hannah's #1 Shoes and Burger King and Starbucks and all of them. We've got the New Zealand Police, Sharp Marketing, great consulting company who work with professional services firms, the New Zealand Police. Right, Paula's here for herself as well as her organisation. So great to see a few people there. Okay, if you care to drop more in there, Sport Waikato, thanks for coming along, Rob. Andy's got his AI assistant. You are welcome to have an AI assistant join this, although I do recommend attending yourself. I'm just waiting for the day, one day, when I turn up to a meeting and it's me and everybody's Otter AIs. And I'm actually the only person there. Great. Right. Second question for you. I'm hoping that everybody who's on this call or watching the recording is either now or has been at some time in their career part of a workplace that they have found inspiring in some way. Could have been the leadership, could have been the culture, could have been some aspect of the employee experience, of the relationships with customers, could have been anything. What you don't have to say what company it was, but when you reflect back on what made or makes your current experience inspiring, what's one thing that made it that? Take a moment. Ali, what about you? While people are thinking about what has made an inspiring workplace, you work for yourself, so I'm hoping your experience is super
I have a terrible
inspiring.
boss. Yeah. I think inspiring for me has been creativity and autonomy. Like when that's been really encouraged, that is inspirational. When you can play, break things, make a few mistakes, try something different. Oh, we're getting some cool things from the chat too, by the look of it.
Yeah.
We got here.
Yeah, so we've got a few comments here,
Brilliant.
team. those who are listening in. So strong, evident lived values. So it's not just nice talk.
Mm,
That's an environment where people can break the status quo, and the company, the organization wants to do that, and they create a space where you can play a part,
mm,
authentically doing things for the greater good. So sense of purpose, and I know that's one of the 6 pillars for the
mhm,
inspiring workplaces, where there's real alignment, right? So people, values, what we say, what we do, etc. Yeah, people, high trust, open to experiment,
mm,
support and belief. Though, and from my manager, right? So the importance of that immediate relational
mm,
capacity and strength, as well as the broader social capacity of culture and values. The passion of people, yeah, creativity, trust, and energizing direction, collaboration,
mm,
team spirit, some really awesome
mm,
stuff. And I certainly see my own experience reflected in those comments. So I think there's what it speaks to is the real commonality of actually what people want, and therefore our ability to have a framework that we can apply to any organization, which will more or less be relatable to anybody, right, in terms of what
mm.
can make a workplace inspiring. So Ellie, let's crack into the first part of this, which is really, the inspiring workplaces. Well, we've either got a child or an animal. It's an animal. It's an animal. We've got a dog on the loose, dog joining. That was something made previous workplace inspiring for me, was being dog friendly. Sure. Who's
Nice.
joining? Who's joining us, Ellie?
It's Harry, the grumpy little guy who's Bichon Silky Shih Tzu Maltese. Loves us, but just, oh, look, he's got a little bit of the portrait lighting coming onto him. There you go. Beautiful boy, but yeah, little grumpy.
Right. Welcome, Harry. So Harry was obviously, he just needs to be part of the conversation. We all know what that's like. Never worked with animals or children. So coming back to it, the Inspiring Workplaces has been going for what, like 11 years globally, but
Yeah.
it's relatively recent in Australasia. And until I was approached by you guys about being involved, I didn't know anything about it. So hence why we're talking today. We have an education opportunity. What's
Mm.
the backstory on the purpose generally, and the New Zealand Australia regional push specifically?
Okay. So taking you back to the start, the global CEO and founder of Inspiring Workplaces, Matt Manners, um, had a belief that putting people first was the magic in a workplace, and that unlocked all sorts of opportunity and prosperity for organizations. And he wanted to find a way to celebrate those organizations. So he started, I think it was Employee Experience Awards originally. It became Inspiring Workplaces. And it runs globally, so it's all over the world. But it did make quite a soft launch in Australia during COVID. So Australia and New Zealand kind of got a little dabble of Inspiring Workplaces at a time when the whole workplace just dramatically shifted. And so it did go under the radar for a while. And we're all emerging into a new version of work and the world. And also recognize that in this region, particularly, there are some incredibly inspiring workplaces that we think should be championed and celebrated. So that's why now we have Ryan and myself driving Inspiring Workplaces in Australasia, because we think there's so much to celebrate in the region, and because we think that people first philosophy really resonates, particularly at a time when there is dramatic technical disruption going on in workplaces. And that does have an impact on the people in those organizations. So we love that message of, there's still a way to inspire and put people first, whatever the world's going through.
Yeah. And look, I mean, in the awards space, there are certain industry sectors and functions within organizations that like to award themselves quite a lot. HR is not one of those, right? And this is not just an HR award, it's an organizational award.
Mm,
It's something that looks across the organization as a whole. there are already awards around. Why another one? So why Inspiring Workplaces versus Best Places to Work, or the HRNZ Awards, or any of the other more specific ones around engagement or whatever it might be that already exist?
Mm. So a few observations from me about that. I think inspiration is something unique.
Mm-hmm.
And the way we position this too is that it's not just about what you achieve, it's about what you overcome. So this isn't the pursuit of perfection, it's the pursuit of transformation, which is ongoing. And for HR folks, that job is never done.
Mm,
You might make a lot of ground, and then there's another plot twist that you have to adapt to. And so for those people who are so hardworking and barely take a moment to get any kind of congratulations, this is recognition for the inspiration you bring to the everyday lives of people who work in your organizations. And I think, that your point was that the HR don't do this. They don't take the time to do that. So I think, yeah, on a couple of fronts, there's you're never done. So take a moment to recognize what you have achieved, and reflect not just on achievement, but also transformation and what you've overcome. And I think that does resonate, particularly for, let's say, New Zealand right now, where I think you're still in recession. And so what we do when times are tough matters as well, not just when times are good. That also speaks to inspiration. I think the other
yeah.
thing that sets us apart is one thing that we recognize about people, HR people, is that they're desperate to connect with one another. It can be a bit lonely and isolating. There are all the jokes about, people going quiet when HR walks into the room. And I think you miss your community and you miss your peers in that regard. And so Inspiring Workplaces is about not just inspiring others, but being inspired yourself. And that's where events like the one you're putting on for us today, Kate, are fantastic, because it's a chance to learn and grow and collectively improve the experience for people at work.
Yeah, and I think that speaks to an important aspect of it. It's not a competition. It's about recognition. And
Mm,
as a friend of mine says, be inspired by the company you keep. And that can be,
mm.
your competitors, your colleagues, your peers. So, Ceri, Douglas Pharmaceuticals got involved. You guys decided this is something we want to be part of. Why? Why get involved in the Inspiring Workplace Awards?
Yeah, kia ora. Douglas has been around for coming up 63 years. We are born and bred in New Zealand with our founder, Sir Graham Douglas. And it was sort of New Zealand's best kept secret. And it is a little bit like that so far. But we have been on a big journey for the last 6 years about really shining a spotlight on the fabulous people that we have in the organisation and the incredible work that we do on a daily basis, improving lives, not only for New Zealanders, but abroad, with 80% of our product exported globally. So global recognition was a big thing for us. And a lot of our talent, while we do grow our own and have a phenomenal internal promotion rate, and we're, definitely focus on the development of our people in everything we do, we also have to bring in some of that expertise from our global markets. And so global recognition was really important to us. And that's where we got wind of Inspiring Workplaces. Plus, it's a pretty cool name, Inspiring Workplaces. Like, I was like, oh, okay, what is this? Let's just have a little look through. And I think when you go through, and we will get to this later today, when you go through the questions and the categories, there are more than the metrics and the measurement. There is future focus around planning, and it talks to leadership, it talks to community and connection. It feels different, and that's
Yeah,
why we liked it.
yeah. And I think the point you raise from employment brand
Yeah,
perspective, from employment, your brand recognition and reach. If we are, as New Zealand companies, there's a lot, well, New Zealand organisations, not just businesses, but organisations, there is a lot of talk about brain drain and offshore drift,
yeah,
where this is an opportunity to re-recruit yourselves and your own people by
yeah,
reinforcing good how good it is to be part of your organization, but also having the opportunity to get visibility in offshore markets, in places where, and Inspiring Workplaces is higher profile and has more recognition in other places like Europe and the UK and the US. So depending on where you're shopping for talent as well, it's interesting. So tell us about the process, right? So lots of people, it can feel like a bit of a black box. One of the reasons that people don't put themselves forward for these things is often you go, oh, Christ, it's going to be so much work. I haven't got time. We haven't got a comms team. Because this is not just for big employers, right? Tax traders, who were another New Zealand company that got regional and global recognition. They are a smaller, they're 50 people, I think, in both of their businesses. So this is not just about big companies with HR teams. I want to make that clear for people who are listening. This is so
the first year Nick went on the same flight as me over to Sydney for the awards, and we didn't know each other, obviously. And we walked in. There wasn't a HR function for tax traders. It was just the way they were, the way they put people first, and just their philosophy around approaching work.
So tell us about the process, so we can demystify it a little bit and go, like, you don't need an army.
No. I think it's about telling the story about what you're already doing. So yes, there's categories and there's specific questions, and they're capped out with certain word counts, just like you would expect in any application. But the supporting documents are your most important pieces. So tell the story about what you're doing. And yes, it helps if you have measurement, but telling the story, I think, was more powerful for us this year. And for us, that was really sharing around well-being when things aren't going well, when we step in and what we offer and how we can support and put people first every time. Human to human, not business to human. And I think that was the differentiator for us this year. And that was also a moment for us to pause and reflect, and a huge sense of pride for the entire team to think, wow, okay, we do that. And we do that every time, and we don't even think about it. Every time we do that. And every time we've got the leadership and the permission and the incredible people in the team who visit our people, who keep them safe, who ensure that they are well looked after when things don't go well. And we all know, we've all been there ourselves, all been there with our own families. And it's important that people come first. And that is how do you measure that? You measure that because you're genuinely doing it. And therefore, all of your other metrics that the board and the governance care about start increasing because people see it. They don't hear about it and read about it, but they experience it for real.
Yeah, and I think that speaks to, that lovely Brene Brown quote, that story of the data with soul. So there are some things which are easily measurable, and there are other things where actually it's more of qualitative rather than quantitative. And so the stories and reflections and insights and themes are important.
Yeah.
So who was actually involved from your team in putting
I think we had quite a few of us, depending on the topic. There were about 5 of us. So, all providing different information and sharing different stories. So that's an easy way we divide and conquer, and we get some real life information from some of our people leaders. And so if everyone just gets one question out of the 8, that's really great. It makes it a lot easier. And then we work through that and do a final review for tone and submitted the application through.
Yeah.
It is our 2nd year participating. So obviously that we knew sort of a bit more about what to expect this year.
Yeah. So 8 questions. There's a word limit. Use stories, use metrics.
Supporting documentation.
Images. Supporting documents.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bring it to life, right? What I thought might be interesting was like how in this process, you've been through it the first time, now the second time, when we were having the pre-brief conversation about this, we talked about how you mentioned like actually going through the process of surfacing these stories and reflecting on, as Ellie said, the transformational stuff, like what's making a real difference for our people and therefore our organisation, that you guys got inspired. The people who were putting the application together were like, wow, this is so cool. I'm inspired. What are some examples of the things that came through in this year's application that really did that for you guys? You inspired yourselves.
Yeah. It's interesting because we're people, like we just spoke about before, and so we kind of you carry on, and you want the recognition for not just your PNC team, but for the whole organization, and so that's really important that you talk to that. One of the things that really popped up for us was our engagement around our internal comms. So internal comms sits within our team. And really sitting there and reflecting that nearly 50% of our people engage with every story we post on our intranet was like, wow, like they care, they're engaged. Like, so we have EMPS and we have all the other measures, but that was one where I know we were like, this is pretty incredible. The other really sad one was how people are getting sick more often. And I think that, so that's not a pride thing, but that was pride, and I'll talk to why. But a lot of people get sick. 1 in 3 people experience someone in their family or themselves having cancer, and things happen in life, and people get sick and people pass away. And how we show up in those moments is what matters. So at Douglas, we offer life insurance and income protection. But I have the most incredible team who wear their hearts on their sleeve, right in front of their faces, actually, who go to our people's homes and check in on them, who we make food for, who we take things with, who we check in with their families. And I think that when we were able to articulate that, we've never really thought about that. We move through those motions, but we never really experience it in that way. And then we thought, wow, this is more than well-being. And we were just answering a question relating to well-being, and thought, that's what makes us different. So it is in that. And yes, we do hard stuff. I mean, yes, we're people, like you say, everyone goes quiet, like, oh, don't say anything. And yeah, we do all of that, and we negotiate with the unions, and we've got all of the ER. But it was really interesting to sit back and think, wow, when times get tough, we show up, and we show up over and above every time.
Yeah.
And that's really special.
And I think it's really easy. And this is why running a reflective process like this application it's a reflective process, is an opportunity to see what it is you're doing without really knowing that you're doing it, because you just feel like you're doing the right thing, right? There's a lot of conversation, oh, we just do it because it's the right thing to do. It's like, yeah, but not everybody does it. Like one of the examples that you gave when we were having the briefing chat was about bereavement leave. And about creating space. Have a lot of, I mean, I don't know about organisations on the line with us now or watching the recording, but what is statutory mandated in terms of the number of days bereavement leave, by the Act, isn't in any way, shape or form enough.
No.
It doesn't encompass, the broad, wide and deep expanse of processing grief. But you guys recognise some specific things about the makeup of your people that meant you designed it in a specific way. Can you tell us a little bit about that as an example?
So we've got 64 nationalities here at Douglas, and there's 668 of us. That's sitting across 3 sites here out in West Auckland, as well as one based in Nandi in Fiji. So predominantly, a lot of our people don't originate from New Zealand. And so, taking leave at certain times of the year when we do have a shutdown of our plants doesn't really work for them, because they may not celebrate the same things that New Zealanders are celebrating. So it's really important that we offer additional leave in all forms, and we do acknowledge that, leave in advance, leave, and a number of other things around our leave policy. But when it comes to bereavement leave, often, unfortunately, our families are overseas, and we need to be able to get back pretty quickly and stay on for longer periods of time, depending on our employees' religious beliefs and how they need to show up for their families and how long they need to be there for. So, we offer an additional 7 days on top of so they get up to 10 days, and then we will always go over and above. I don't think in my 6 years here we have ever, in fact, I can say we have not declined leave. We have been able to utilize the leave in any way. And the same goes for sick leave on the stand down period before income protection comes in. We will do whatever we possibly can to ensure that people can thrive, not just survive through those times.
Yeah. And I think saying that that's a people first decision versus a profit first decision, which would be the CFO running numbers on that and going, oh my God, that's going to cost us X, Y, and Z. It's like, this is one of those peak, pivotal, core moments of human experience, acknowledging that and being flexible about that and what that will do for the connection, the belonging, the belief, like further to some of the comments about what makes a place inspiring, that is alignment, that is trust, that is values, you know. And it doesn't, but this is what I mean, it doesn't always have to be about the good shit. It's not, you know, this is not about.
I shared with you pre this, and I'm happy to share with everyone else on the line, but my father passed away 10 years ago this December from leukemia. And he had a 2-year journey, a bone marrow transplant. There was a lot going on, and his employer made him redundant 8 weeks before he passed. And we had no energy to fight it. And I think you can't get that back. There's no way that that was going to be our priority in those 8 weeks, right? And what a cowardly thing to do. But this happens. You hear stories like this all the time. And then their branding and their marketing, and then we're here, come and work for us. And I just think, wow, you know, I just, that, so when I arrived here and I was able to put some of that learned experience into genuinely every decision we're making, with strong leadership from our managing director to say every time put people first, it has just, it's absolutely engaging for me, for my team, and for the entire organization to know that we're able to do that. Yeah. And we still have fun. We still have lots of fun when in the good times, don't get me wrong. I mean, we're talking about when things aren't great. We do all the wonderful, lovely things at the same time. And when we celebrate everything we can, we're massive on celebrations. We recognize our people. We love food. Like, we really love food.
You guys eat together for lunch every day.
We all eat together every day in our cafeterias, everyone. It blew my mind. I was like, the first time I haven't eaten at my desk in 20 years when I arrived here, and the whole team says, oh, I'm going for lunch now, and everyone, and you walk out and there's hardly any spaces. Everyone's out there now. I can see them. And I think, wow, when last did you have Kai with your team? You know, it's pretty cool. And so you connect on a very intimate level with people. We had a new employee start in our team, in our people experience team, coming from another New Zealand organization. And she said, I cannot believe that everyone comes to work every day here. I said, what do you mean? She said, well, I worked there for 2 years and no one, like, I'd go in and my team wasn't there. And then the team would go in and I was at home. But everyone here wants to come to work. And I was like, yeah, that's right. It's interesting. And I had never thought about it. I haven't thought about the fact that people want to drive in. They want to get stuck in Auckland traffic. They want to move through because they want to come and see their colleagues, their friends. They want to collaborate face to face. They want to spend time together.
Yeah. And I think, look, it'd be easy for people listening to this to be going, oh my God, that you might be having some comparisonitis.
Yeah.
And again, not a competition. It's not like, oh, Douglas are better than us or whatever. It's like, oh, this is really interesting. What can we learn from what Douglas are doing and what matters to our people? Because it's not about copying other people. What are we doing that might be our version of this thing? But also, I think what you were saying there about, we are all, when you have a people first approach, what I call a human-centered approach, we all have lived experience of what it's like to be a human. We're all like doing life and work. And so we all have that experience. And if we bring that to the table and we put that at the center of how we think about creating our culture and designing development for our leaders based on who we want them to be as people and how they'll show up in our organization, all of these things, it just changes things. It doesn't cost more. It's just like this different perspective that opens up so much possibility.
We're not perfect, but neither is anyone, all right? It's just about trying to do the right thing. And sometimes we don't, but we try really bloody hard to do the right thing.
And like you said, you know, this is your second year around. Every year, be ourselves just better. So, Ali, regional and global recognition, right? So there are a lot of New Zealand, well, not a lot, there are a number, there's about half a dozen New Zealand ones that look at different aspects of this people experience, HR, awards, engagement and culture. There are about half a dozen here. And I know there are the same and more in Australia, but they're very local, right? So they're Australian awards or New Zealand. And like Ceri was saying before, that kind of regional, global thing was important. What do you see as the value of that regional and global, not just recognition, but the fact that it is actually part of a community of organisations who are all kind of centred on this, that visibility and recognition. What's the advantage of regional and global versus just national?
I mean, the first advantage is I am so inspired by what Ceri has described. Ceri, what you're doing at Douglas Pharmaceuticals is inspirational. And I'm based in Australia, and I think we're neighbours. We have got so much that we could share to uplift our region when it comes to the workplace experience. Likewise with tax traders who took out the win in 2025 as well. So from the regional perspective, I think huge advantage is being good neighbours and inspiring one another and being inspired by one another. There is also more that those businesses could probably do to collaborate with each other. And then from a global perspective, I think, it might feel that we're in this small southern corner of the globe, but we have big ambition down here. And there are global markets that we might be aiming for. And to have a presence and to have some credibility in those markets is really valuable. So, it might be because you're concerned about instability within your own market, financial market, and you want to expand to others, or you're thinking global from day one, or you equally want to cast the net wider for inspiration around the globe because your people maybe come from different places in the world. So I think there are a number of reasons. I hope that has sold it for you, because I do think that global lens and the regional lens are unique and so valuable. But I mean, Ceri, what's your take on that? Did that appeal
I think
to Douglas?
what the team shared back was at the awards, they were able to share why people had won and what they were doing that might have been different or inspiring. And I think that itself is quite cool in regards to the community and what we can learn back from them. And so keep that going. I think that's great, is sharing that back. And I know the team are trying really hard to get the community going and sharing the stories with each other. So yeah, if we can all learn from each other, then we can all be better and pick up little bits that we're not doing on the other side. There'll be people on the call who are doing fabulous things that we haven't even thought about. So,
yeah. And I
really
think
cool.
that's the other thing that I would like to call out on this. I think when I, sort of pull back, widen out and look at the other ways in which people can get recognised, that is just an award or a recognition or a win, right? But this is an ongoing conversation. Something that is there is information and opportunity to connect and learn and hear from people who, organisations and leaders from companies and organisations of all sizes and shapes and industries all over the world. Like there was just last month, there was a rolling around the planet summit, wasn't it, Ali? And you guys, Ali and Ryan hosted a portion of it for part of as the sun travelled through our region. But there's a podcast, there's a YouTube channel, there are webinars, not yet in New Zealand, but 2026 we'll have the opportunity for some in-person roundtable conversations so that we can get people together into conversation, into connection, to learn from each other. Further to your point about the peer-to-peer, community and connection, and be inspired by each other on an ongoing basis, not just because somebody won an award for something on one day in the middle of the year, right? It's an ongoing conversation and opportunity. And I think that's inspiring and exciting because I'm not seeing that anywhere else. And that those conversations are not just limited to HR people, like leaders of all kinds need to get involved. So what's the nuts and bolts, Ellie, of the application process, the criteria? We talked about there are 8 questions, the judging process. Shall I share the key dates thingy?
Yeah, let's look at the key dates. Yep.
All right.
Nice. Okay. Yeah. So the awards are open now. We have an early bird deadline approaching. So what we've been really conscious of with Inspiring Workplaces is low barriers to entry. That doesn't mean we don't also have a high bar for winners, because we do, but it's not about how much you have, to work with. It's about how inspiring you are with what you've got. So if you're looking for an affordable way to get in, I would suggest doing the early bird entry that closes on the 28th of November this year. And Kate, you made this awesome point about re-recruiting your people. And so at this point in the year, you might be doing some strategic work for 2026. And the application process is remarkable for giving you a chance to reflect and really look at where your strengths and weaknesses are. So you're doing your strategic work and you're writing an award submission. And then the cherry on top of that is you may be a winner and you have something incredible to celebrate with your people to lift that engagement, or, attract other people through your EVP. So then the 25th of February, 2026, the awards officially close. Folks might have some downtime over the Christmas and then come back motivated to have some wins for 2026. So you can, you might leave it till a bit later, in which case you've still got a chance to enter in the new year. Then the judges take over. So we have an incredible panel of judges, including our wonderful Kate Billing, who is going to help assess these entries. And they're independent judges. They don't all get in a room together and swap notes and agree who the winner's going to be. They take a look from their expert perspective and they will assess your entry based on the judging criteria. And so they do that, and up until the 19th of March, they do that. And then we announce the finalists. So if you make it to the finalists, you've already got a badge you can celebrate. You're a finalist for Inspiring Workplaces Australasia. And then on the 5th of June, so you're invited to a party if you're a finalist, and we have a big party on the 5th of June. It's going to be in Sydney in 2026. And that is a chance to get dressed up. To the point about the never-ending work of people, this is a chance to stop and celebrate the milestones and all the hard work that you do, and be celebrated for that. And then, we loop back around again to things like the 24-hour PeopleFirst Summit, our roundtables, and all the learning content that comes from these incredible winners. That's what that loop looks like.
Yeah, there's so much story sharing. That's what I've been really impressed with. Like I said before, not just awards. There are people who are making, an industry out of running awards events for multiple things versus actually committing to the organisations who want to be part of this so that they can be better and keep coming back to recognise progress and learn together, not just win a one-time award for a one-time thing they did, which is the way a lot of awards things, it works like that in media and advertising and marketing, the campaign awards. A lot of stuff in the HR space can be like that. They get an award for a single initiative versus, Ceri, what you're describing, which is, all of these different aspects, including how we're thinking about the future.
Yeah, absolutely.
For our organisation.
Yeah, and I think just to layer onto that, Kate, one of the really lovely things that happened this year was our Chief Commercial Officer came to me and said one of her business development managers had turned around and said, did you know that we were in the global top 4 for Inspiring Workplaces? Like, have you seen it? Did you not? I'm so proud to work here. I've shared it all over everything. I've told everyone I know. And honestly, that was just really cool, because that's someone who's not sitting here thinking about that stuff. They're out there selling products. They're thinking quite differently about, their world. It's not, but their sense of pride on that was really lovely. And that makes us proud. That makes us feel pretty special, because it is a special place to be, and they should be acknowledged for that.
Yeah. Yeah. They were inspired.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Ellie, there are 8 questions in the application, and there are 6 kind of special recognition categories, aren't there, across that? Do you want to share a bit about that with people?
Definitely. So there are 6 key criteria. We've got 8 questions, and the 6 key criteria help kind of position your whole entry. And we are very lucky to have Kate Billing sponsor our leadership category. So one of the criteria we assess is leadership, and how appropriate, Kate, to have you champion that one. We also have purpose and culture, well-being, employee voice, employee experience, and inclusion and belonging. And so it's a case study approach where you get to address each of those facets of your organisation. And for some organisations, they may feel particularly strong in one or two of those categories, and you can opt to get special recognition for a particular criterion. And we also look at you holistically too, but those are the pillars that we use. And in fact, last week in Melbourne, we had a roundtable, which is one of our learning events on inclusion and belonging, to give people a chance to inspire and be inspired on that topic. And we recognise that these themes are so vital to the work of people, and a people first experience in an organisation.
Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely. Ceri, advice for first time applicants. So last year was first time. You said you learned a lot. You came at it with a different approach this time. What would your advice be to people listening in today who are thinking about, well, this could be for us. This could be really good. What would your advice be?
You're already doing great stuff. You just need to write it all down and build a bit of a story around what it is. So keep it concise, keep it tight, make it meaningful, and keep it real. That's what I would say. It doesn't take very long.
Yeah. Like you say, there's a word limit. You can't blather on.
Do it. Yeah. And the supporting documents, again, you should have all of that. You're just pulling it together into one central place. So give it a go.
Now, I've just popped into the chat to everybody the link to the Australasian section of the Global Inspiring Workplaces site so that everyone can have that. I will include that link coming out with the recording so that people who are just listening into us now and can't see the chat will also have that. So our region has its own area, and on here you'll see, so we've got the early bird deadline with a helpful countdown button, just to add a bit of acid to that one. But remember, you do have until the 25th of February. There's a whole lot of information here, some great, just little clips to give you a feel, Q&A, sort of frequently asked questions, and then here is everything you need to take part. So there's all of the key date stuff that Ellie just ran through, how to enter, the criteria and forms. There's even a sample entry to give you an idea of okay, so what does it look like? Because if you're a first-time person coming into these things, you're like, I don't know, what does good look like? Well, here's an example. And some current and past winners so that you can be a little inspired. So everything you need is there. If you have questions and you can't get answers, Ellie is the person to come to. And again, with the recording of this, I will include Ellie's email address so that you can get in contact with her direct, and encourage you to connect with any of the three of us on LinkedIn. If you want to ask questions, I'm sure Ceri would be happy to answer any questions, or direct you to somebody on her team who could. Speaking of questions, we have some time in hand. So for those of you who are still with us, what do you want to know? What have we not covered? And if you're sitting there going, I don't know, it's like a guy I used to work with a lot, Jen Smith, always said, if you had a question, what would it be? Which is a good way of getting to, what do I want to know? So just take a moment. No such thing as a silly question. No question too small or too large. Anything you'd like to ask Ceri about Douglas Pharmaceuticals, their approach, things that came through in the application, the process, etc. Anything for Ellie specifically about the awards, about the application process, about anything like that. So we'll give you a moment to get your fingers busy and see if anyone has any questions.
I've got a couple of answers for things that people might not ask. And one of them is, celebration, Kate.
Celebration.
One of them is about entry fees. And I mentioned low barriers, and that's really important to us. We have lots of not-for-profits in the ecosystem as well. And so the entry fees are pretty altruistically priced, about 500 Australian dollars to get in, if you get that within the open window, so you don't put a late one in. and then it's 75 Australian dollars for the special recognition. So that's not thousands of dollars and hours and hours and hours wrangling a huge survey. It doesn't mean that the standard of entry is low or that the winners haven't done as much to get there. It's just we didn't want to put any extra barriers in the way for anybody to inspire someone else. And so that's one thing. Another thing I will say too is our region does have this tendency to think that we need to be ready before we enter an award. We think, well, we're not there yet. That's not what this award is about. It's not about arrival. It's about the journey rather than the destination. And I can tell you that over in Australia, we see the NZ police campaigns for their employer brand and love them, and they're highly visible. And we also know that there are quiet things that your organizations are doing that we can't see that we would love to. So my encouragement is go for it, because the worst thing that could happen is you don't win, but every single entry gets judging feedback, and that is very rare. So you've got a benchmarking activity happening, and I think you'll probably surprise yourselves as well with the inspirational things you're doing.
Great. Here we have a question that has come through. Jessica asks, is there anything that surprised you? Maybe you thought you were all over something but found that something needed work. Sounds like this is for you, Ceri. Or a blind spot that the application process surfaced. Any intel from your process that has impacted your 12-month roadmap? So was there anything that kind of surprised you discovered that went, oh, actually, we'll put that into the roadmap for the next 12 months for attention?
Not that surprised us, but from a D&I perspective, we don't necessarily have a D&I strategy because we have 64 nationalities. So it is just about building a culture and a place where everyone belongs. And so I guess we thought that might have been a bit of a miss for us, not having some of those measurements. So but it wasn't. And I think it's because we were able to talk to the stories, and our people were able to share the stories about how they feel coming to work and what we celebrate and acknowledge versus meeting a target. And so it was quite interesting. And so now we actually do meet those targets, but because we don't measure on them at a governance level, we haven't actually gone through and done that work until part of this process. So that was quite interesting for us.
I've got one for you, actually. It's a bit of a follow-on from Jessica's, and it plays off something you mentioned before about what your team said about, and Ellie, you were saying when people are at the awards night, right, there's a conversation about why these people have moved from finalists to kind of winner, in inverted commas, not that it's competition. Ceri, are there things that you've been in the room twice now?
Once. I sent my team over this year.
Yeah. So what is it that when you were in the room hearing those things, or your team were in the room, they came back and went, oh, there was this great thing that maybe some other organisation was doing or got recognised for, that you were like, oh, that's cool. How might we do that? What's our version of that? Have you experienced that?
Been with Nicola from Tax Traders. So they do sort of a daycare during school holidays. And we were like, ooh. I mean, as a parent, holidays are very tricky. I'm planning those out well in advance. And I just thought that was fantastic. And even if it was a day, we haven't implemented it yet, but my goodness, we've been talking a lot about how we could make this work. A bit trickier for us because we're a lot bigger, but we think that even if we did a first come, first serve basis across our sites, it would be pretty phenomenal and quite an easy thing to do, because it is about bringing the family and the community together, right? It's not just about you coming to work, and no one in your family gets to see where you work and what you do. And so that could be a wonderful way to be able to do that. So that's something that was really interesting. But a lot of senior leaders are attending, not just HR professionals. And I thought that was quite cool. So normally you see a lot of us are HR. It was a lot of business leaders who had put the applications through themselves and who were there representing their businesses. And I thought that was fabulous.
Yeah, and I see Rebecca's put a message in here too saying, just, really keen to understand the cool things other organisations are doing to spark creativity. Well, and Rebecca, the best way to hear that is to be in the room. So I know you said rather than enter, but maybe you could. And in the meantime, anyway, if you sign up to Inspiring Workplaces in terms of their mailing list, etc. You get invitations to things that are going on in terms of webinars and expert speakers and stories, success stories, etc., from organisations all over the world. So as Ali was saying, that part of the value is not just the elevation of your organisation and what you're doing and this ability to understand how you are playing. Because I think in New Zealand in particular, we can have a story that like what's going on in Australia or America must be better. I can tell you from a loving place, because I lived there for a while, that what is going on in America is not necessarily better than what is happening in New Zealand organisations. I think we can have this view that bigger countries must be more sophisticated, particularly in people practices and culture, and that's not always the case. There's some really good shit happening here, and you can learn, but we can learn from them. And I think further to Ceri's point, some of the people who are speaking, like it's a broad range of people who are sharing stories and expertise. It's not an HR thing, even though you might own the responsibility for getting the application done.
That's right. And from a really broad range of industries too. That was something else that was magical about the roundtable last week was, everybody has a different context for the work that they're doing. Ceri, you mentioned how multicultural Douglas Pharmaceuticals is, and that gives you a different lens when you approach something like inclusion and belonging. And some organisations, I think Tax Traders is a great example. They have an incredible family first approach to the way they work. And speaking of inspiration there, you've got the life and death between your wonderful story about bereavement, Ceri, and then Tax Traders doing things like having a nanny for the mum returning from parental leave. Those things matter, that our people's lives matter, and we can influence them so positively and powerfully.
Yeah. And the roundtables, we don't have them in New Zealand yet, but tell us about those. Just because
they're coming. We will be really keen to and Kate, I know you're going to be such a champion for it when it happens. Get me in a room. Yeah. So what we do is we tend to just it's usually invite only, but we get a bunch of people together and we pick one of the criterion from the awards. So it could be that it's about leadership, it could be about employee voice. And you're gathered in a room and we facilitate a roundtable conversation using conversation cards. And, some of them have got little tiger stripes on them because they're a wild card. And we're going to push and press. You really think about controversial or challenging concepts. So inclusion and belonging last week, we had a cracker, which is what if your efforts to include one group leave another group feeling excluded? And that prompted a really good discussion. And it's the messy place we're in when you're people, because people are messy, wonderful, but messy and complicated. Is that you acknowledge that this stuff is complex. People are complex and it's hard, but it is very much worth doing. So a roundtable discussion is, great. People come out feeling really, really buzzed and inspired. And we even had some Gen Z, like some fairly early career people come to that who sent messages afterwards saying, wow, that was so incredible. I loved being brought along to hear from all of these experts. So be inspired and inspire others is all part of it.
Yeah, and I think, again, further to that point is it being an intentionally intergenerational conversation as well. So it not just being a horizontal, like all senior people and stuff like that in the room, but making sure we've got diversity of perspective through where people are at on their journeys, what inspires different people. Andy's helpfully put his, or Otter has, I don't know,
sorry notes.
has helpfully put his takeaways in there. Thanks very much, Otter AI. You can access Andy's full summary through the link attached. I really have a problem with AI note takers in meetings. I really do. Right, but if you can't be there, so you're going to be there. Anywho, I think that is probably us. So what I would love, I know some people have had to dip off early. We do have 5 minutes to go. I'd just really love people who are still on the line just to pop in. I mean, part of this is about being inspired, right? But there might be another word that describes how you're feeling as you leave this conversation today. What is a word that sums up how you're feeling as a result of sitting with us, listening to us have a natter about inspiring workplaces for the last hour or so? One word in the chat about how you're feeling, and then you can head off into your afternoon. Right. Opportunity. Curious. Curious is a good one. Opportunities, more opportunities. Confidence.
Confidence.
Excited.
Awesome. Yes.
Loving it. Thoughts filled. Love it when the wheels are whirring. Hopefully you have a disturbed sleep with lots of ideas. It's what I wish for people after things like this. May you wake in the night at 2:00 and have lots of ideas.
Wicked but
Invigorated.
brilliant.
That's awesome, Rob. Great to hear. Grateful. Yeah. And look, we're grateful for you guys making the time to join us. Ali, Ceri, thank you so much for making the time this afternoon and for everything you're both doing in your organisation, and Ali through this wonderful and genuinely inspiring platform. It's I'm so excited to be part of it. Ceri, Ali, how are you feeling as we finish today?
Do you want to go, Ali?
Yeah, I'll go. I mean, I'm feeling, I'll tell you straight off the chat, I am feeling all these things too, that it's an opportunity. I'm invigorated. I'm excited. I think I love, I'm a people person myself, and so is Ryan. So we are so excited to be part of this journey with you. And I'm so hopeful to see New Zealand well represented in 2026, because Australia needs your input. We need some inspiration from you, and I really hope you bring it.
Yeah. Ceri?
Yeah, I'm feeling super pumped and energized, to be honest, and excited that we might have more New Zealanders who we can connect with. And yeah, those roundtables sound fantastic. I know we haven't been able to go to any, but I would love a special invite. That would be amazing. Yeah. Yes.
It's in the post.
I can't wait.
Yeah.
I can't wait. I love getting people together in the real, eyeball to eyeball, knee to knee, and having really wonderful, expansive, exploratory, sometimes challenging conversations about this, because that's when we all get better. And that's what we all want. I mean, we all want to be inspired. Who doesn't want to be part of making a workplace that other people, like Ceri's story, they will fight through Auckland traffic every day to physically come to work because they love it. I mean, who doesn't want that? I mean, not
that's
traffic,
a legacy. Yeah.
Yeah. Right, team. Ali, Ceri, and I are going to stay on the line. The rest of you are welcome to leave us or wait until I quietly kick you off. So that you will leave. But thank you all for joining us. And I really hope to see some of your organisations represented in the applications that I and the rest of the awesome judging panel get to have a read of early next year, and maybe even see you for a bit of a knees up in Sydney on the 5th of June. Thank you for coming.
Amazing. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.